as do a bunch of other employers. So, yeah.
All right, thank you so much for your generosity for sharing with us. But yeah, unfortunately, we have to move to our next speaker, who are also as inspiring and as insightful as James. So yeah, thank you so much, James. You're allowed
Take care,
to.
everyone. Good luck with the rest of the sessions.
Thank you. So yeah, moving on to our second speaker to deep digger into the system mapping, we have Sarah Ardhani. You already met her during the first session. She is at the Ag System Mapping Student Forum lead at Wesleyan University. Maybe without further ado, please, Sarah, time and place is yours.
Hello, everyone. Before we start, maybe we can also let the Map the System winners team know that like we were running a little late earlier, so maybe like send them a note. Okay, cool. So hello everyone. We meet again from the first half of this webinar session, and today or now in the second half, I'll be diving deeper into the introduction of systems mapping. Since we don't have a lot of time, there's only three short agendas that we have to do today. One is understanding systems mapping, second, causal loop diagram deep dive, and third on reflections. So this is just important disclaimers, my credentials of how I got into systems mapping started from my journey at Wesleyan University, where I was appointed by Michaela Kingsley, the director of the Patricia Center for Social Entrepreneurship, to lead this forum. And then later on, the forum sort of snowballed into like something better and better by the year. And I taught this forum in 2022. So it's been a long time and a long while since I got back to the material. So forgive me if I'm a bit rusty in this. I try to like dive deeper into it before presenting, but obviously there's winners who have actually won the Map the System competition in Oxford. So they'll be better suited to answer more of like how to present your maps and how to actually create it into a great storyline. And these are just some of the key materials used. So I'm not going deep into any of this because I think we've already touched on it by James's session earlier. Just quickly on this though, these are just the various tools that he mentioned in his book. There's 30, I think 30 mentioned in there, and all to do with like the different questions that you want. So if for framing, there's the 5R network framework, and then there's also the problem framing canvas, and then so on. But for today specifically, I think we're going to go dive deep into the causal loop diagram because I think it's a good tool for beginners to learn about the feedback loops, the causality of everything that's happening in systems, and how we can sort of expand it or frame it to our liking. And I think it's really good for us to really understand the relationship between elements. So this is the causal loop diagram. It's sort of a complex, it looks like a spaghetti chart, some people say, but I think there's a lot of notations here that once you understand, you can really look at the bigger picture. According to James himself, he says a causal loop diagram is a way of linking elements of a system, but in a causality mapping, and these links take on a direction, a flow. There's different pros and cons about this. The pros that I could think of is it covers many aspects into one visualization: root causes, power dynamics, intersecting systems, leverage points. It reveals previously hidden feedback loops that we might have not realized before. It encourages systems thinking because you really have to like dig deep into what other elements causes your problem variable. And I think it really helps. It's very visual, intuitive for storytelling, and it also really helps facilitate group discussions and build a shared understanding. Some cons to this, though, it's not quantitative. It's subjected to the modeler's perspective, and it can get complicated and overwhelming fast, as you can see in the chart on your right. The must-dos here is you have to draw boundaries into your key maps and also reflect on your initial map, get feedback, fill the missing gaps, and continuously improve. And also mentioned in the first session of this webinar, and also now, and also with James earlier, it's like you'll never fully understand the system because it's just so complex. But I think the more we get into it, the more we know our leverage points. And I think there's just one thing that we have to go into this. It's like we have to be very comfortable with complexity and ambiguity. So some of the causal loop language that I think is important to note here is number one, variables. So here on your left, we have hunger and then we have eating. These are variables that can change in quantity. It can increase or decrease. For example, as hunger increases after a delay, eating causes hunger to decrease. So this is a feedback loop. The more hungry you are, the more you eat. And then the more you eat with some delayed effects, the less hungry you get. And this is called a balancing loop. The link here is sort of understanding the causal relationship pointing from one cause to the effect. And then the sign on each one is different for different maps, but usually S or plus means same, which means as hunger increase, eating also increase. So this is the same direction. That's a positive. Or if once you eat, then hunger decreases, and this is called a negative, an opposite sort of link. And then the loop notation, usually noted at the center, is whether it's balancing. So in this particular example, it's balancing because the more you eat, the less hungry you get, and then when you're hungry again, you eat more. And so there's a balancing way of this, and there's more examples on the next slide of yeah. So this is some examples of a balancing loop versus a positive or reinforcing loops. Just a couple ones that are problematic. For example, in a negative loop, there's system stagnation. You know, visible homelessness created public pressure for the government to do something and quick. But these, again, are like solutions that are superficial, let's say, and it doesn't really dive deep into the core problem. And so it's sort of like a negative effect into not really solving the problem. But then there's also a positive feedback loop or an amplifying effect where it creates vicious cycles. So, for example, the increased use of fossil fuel um, leads global warming temperatures to rise. But then the more hot the air is, the more air conditioner that we use, and that's more electricity. So we continue to burn fossil fuels. So this is a vicious cycle of amplifying effect. We can stay on this page for a little bit more, maybe later in the discussion. But for now, I think it's good for us to start our case study. So if everybody can go on this link, maybe Intan can also help share the link in the chat. I can't see the chat, so hopefully everybody gets it. Okay, so causal loop diagram. Let's start. This is based on the Systems Mapping Toolkit by the System Mapping Academy, which I think has very great resources for beginners and is very easy to digest. But first step for a causal loop diagram is to frame the system, you know, define the context, the occurring problems, and research questions for your framing for your systems mapping. Number one, for the context problem statement, is like what system or general topic do you want to map? Try to identify the main problem that really needs to change. I'm trying to speed on this because I know that we are running out of time. But second is research question. Which questions do you want to answer through your systems mapping? Usually this can start with the why or what factors influence X, Y, Z. And then third, systems mapping goal is what are your overarching goals you want to achieve with this map? And then four, I think is the most important is boundaries and mentioned earlier. Systems can get very complex because they're very intercorrelated with each other. And if you don't complex problem that you won't even know like where to start. So I think it's good to like put a frame. It can be geographical, it could be like perspective, so on. So for the case study, the and elements. I'll put a timer here for 1 minute and I'll mute myself. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna ask everybody to stop now, just for time's sake. But I wanted to add a couple here, like let's say, I don't know, because we mentioned in Jessica's, I think, session that it was like a lot of private companies, like the poverty tax on plastic, something like this. Okay, so um a cool thing about Canva, what I just realized yesterday, is that you can sort of categorize this, and this is sort of the third sub step in this. You can sort by topic. Okay, okay, cool. So there is one. I'm gonna change this into. Okay, so there's four group, I would say, in this, and the next thing that I want to say is, oh, the next part of this is to map the system. So we finally have our elements. We have the problem variable. We have the variables that link to this and the cause and effect and all of that. But the second step is to map the system. You want to put the main variable at the center of the map, and then you want to choose one cluster, keep adding variables to the map, and then try to figure out the linkages between those elements. Connect the clusters with each other, identify and add effects if there are other elements that you think are in the intermediate between the variables that's listed already in the brainstorming session versus the main variable, and then continue with the next cluster and repeat. Find feedback loops, as I mentioned earlier, and identify the regions. These regions can basically mean the cluster groups that was like economic incentives, consumer behavior, etc. Since there are four clusters, I would like the Bridging Minds team, to make them separate into four breakout rooms. And what I'd like you to do based on the breakout room, so number one is on consumer behavior. Wait, sorry. Number one is on government policies and regulations. Breakout room two is on economic factors. Breakout room three is on consumer behaviors and education. And breakout room four is on waste management infrastructures. Based on those topics, I would like you to start figuring out some linkages towards mismanaged waste plastics in rural Indonesia's. So can I ask the team if they can set into breakout rooms? Or maybe do we not have time for that?
Hi, Gita, for the timekeeper. Do we have time? And
Yes,
I
we do.
see that. Okay. Yep, we already opened the breakout room. You can just choose based on your cluster.
Okay, once people break into rooms, I'm gonna give 5 minutes, maybe.
uh since oh we got another one. Okay, cool.
Okay,
Well,
yeah.
since
This is
I feel
another
like
Bridging Mind Teams, by the way, Alvin. Hi, this is
oh, okay, well,
Aima.
hi.
Okay,
Hello.
continue.
Well, since tadi kan disuruh kayak ngehubungin ya kayak how does that contribute? Well, I'm just gonna use mine.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote the lack of awareness from the citizen living in cities, whatever. So like I feel like that connects with like the mismanaged plastic waste because one, you know, if people don't really know the effect in itself, they're bound to be lazy. They don't really find out. In a way they're ignorant. They're ignorant. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't really care about the how do I say like the sustainability of things. So gara-gara itu jadi mereka buang sembarangan, and sampah-sampah itu kan
Mm-hmm.
jadinya kan even though mungkin di kota-kota kan kayak oke kayak buang sampah kayak even though ada tempatnya and everything, and I know ada petugas-petugas kayak gitu juga,
Mm-hmm.
kan bisa aja kayak ada juga kan kayak there's like rivers and everything, bisa aja itu lead to like a village or somewhere kan, jadinya kan kayak mungkin di kota itu nggak masalah, tapi kayak if it reaches through like yang kayak villages yang dekat-dekat situ atau mungkin like other places, itu mereka yang kena dampak ya, dan kayak like orang-orang di kota yang mungkin ignorant tentang kayak buang sampah di tempatnya atau gimana, mereka cuma kayak they won't even know. They won't even know. And they would know if it's too late. And they would probably curse the Indonesian government or something.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly what you were saying. But I mean, if we're also talking about consumer behavior and education, maybe particularly in consumer behavior, I think we also need to add that the way that as people have been using with I'm getting distracted by Intan, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
uh I mean like the way that people, especially in Indonesia, probably also maybe for the entire world, the way our use of single-use plastics has been really common is also because it's practical. You
Mm.
don't have you don't have to like one thing about going green and like having your own packaging, having your own lunchbox, bringing
Mhm.
your own water bottle, that is a hassle for a lot of people. But when you're just getting food outside, when you're going out, in a packaging and a takeaway to go, you don't have to think too much about bringing a lot of things with you at once. You can just like
Yeah.
yeah, m- you don't really have to be like it's not troublesome for you going everywhere with a lot of things all at once. So, like I don't know, maybe once if a lot of us are like fine getting our what do you call it? Like no our habits to be disturbed. One of the
Mm.
things in something like that, maybe we will be able to reduce a lot of single-use plastics, but maybe that's for
Mhm.
another day. One day.
Yeah. Yeah. I would have to agree. I feel like kebanyakan orang Indo masih malas, I guess. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
I mean, I'm guilty of that as well, especially kalau misalkan kayak apa udah keluar gitu kan. So like, yeah.
Mm-mm.
Mhm. Well,
Like
I would
even
love.
people on the
You
oh
first. You
wait,
first.
wait. Okay. Even I feel like I mean me personally, I'm like commuting every day to this place I'm
Mhm.
interning right now, and every day I have to bring like a water bottle at least to like for me in my case, other than yeah, to reduce single-use plastic water bottle, but also to like save my money, but also I feel
Yeah.
like other than
Mhm.
that, I don't really contributing much. I should be also getting my own meals, using my own lunchbox, but oftentimes when you're hanging out with your friends, you're going somewhere, you don't really think about
Mhm.
bringing your own lunchbox with you
Yeah. Exactly.
because
Mhm.
it's obviously disrupting our own comfort. But
Mhm.
like, yeah, I wish we can all start to like implement that more sustainable lifestyle daily
Yeah,
as
I agree.
well. Mm.
Yeah, I
What do you want
agree.
to say again? Sorry.
No, well, I just want to say, like, yeah, I mean, I have to agree with what you said, especially yang tadi kayak kalau makan siang sama atau apa gitu lah teman-teman, pasti kayak, man, like,
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Hai, Kak
Breakout
Sarah.
room. breakout room will close soon, but I just wanted to quickly get your thoughts and check in. Like, what loops do you find in the consumer behavior realm that contributes to plastic waste management in Indonesia?
Well, at least for we there's like definitely the pattern where it's there's like this lack of awareness. Like people are either ignorant or like they're just they think it's not too efficient to do that. So that's why
Mm.
it is the way it is right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's also like there's not a lot of education around it, and also infrastructure wise, there's not really a place for people to even properly manage their waste, right? In Indonesia, I think the
Mhm,
government's still very lax in that.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Hmm.
And that's why, oh, there's 2 seconds left. Anyway, all again.
I believe it was too quick for everyone, right?
Yeah, no, I totally get it. I did check in with some of the groups, and I think everybody had really great ideas already. And this is their first time with causal loop diagrams, but with the government policy, we were mentioning, I think it was, oh, I forgot his name, but he used Delia, but he was using his sister's laptop. Oh yeah, there he is. I forgot your name, sorry. But he was mentioning, like there's a lack of government policy because um he mentioned that governments also have like economic incentives. They still need to like grow economically, and also in terms of that there's a lack of research that they might not know that this is even like a problem that affects so many other problems. And then I also checked with the business people, the sorry, not the business, the consumer behavior people, and then they mentioned there's like a loop of like how people don't even understand where to begin with managing waste properly, and there's a lack of infrastructure as well from the government, so everything is intercorrelated with each other. But that's great, guys. This is just like the 5 minutes is definitely like not enough time to be doing all that, but I just wanted all of you to get a chance to figure out like the elements, the variables that play into systems, and sort of have a discussion within your groups of like finding feedback loops and like how everything is correlated with each other. The next step is to find the leverage. And in a systems map, in a causal loop diagram, usually it means finding leverage points or finding elements that are mostly correlated with each other. So on the right hand side here, we have like 4 questions, like which variables or loops have a strong effect on the entire system? Which part of the maps are quite hard to change? Where's the map that you see potential, a high potential for change? And lastly, where in the map do you see positive change already happening? These are very like guiding questions. As you create a more robust causal loop diagram, you'll get to see more elements and you'll get to see more feedback loops that you sort of can know like all of these ripple effects for the areas, potential for change and positive change already happening that you can leverage for greater impact in your overall system. These are just some of the completed studies related to plastic waste. On the first one here, we are from Reimagine Futures. They talked about workforces are for the problem of macroplastics in the Mediterranean Sea, a different framing, a different geographical context. And then there's also other ones here from Maurice Botterell et al. This is a research paper. And then there's also the Map the Systems Canada 2025 finalist, which talks about the plastic with purpose plastic waste problem in Edmonton, Canada. So there's different framings, there's different types of maps, there's different ways that the loopholes or the feedback loops exist. And I think it's important to sort of understand the leverage points and how to actually make use of the systems that we mapped. For example, here, just quickly, in Reimagine Futures, they identified 7 key leverage points. For example, citizen awareness and education on sustainability issue was selected as a bright spot, an area with potential to change and an area that could generate ripple effects. Meanwhile, business-driven tech and innovation is a frozen element on the map due to low economic value of recycled marine plastics. So these are just some examples of how you can leverage a causal loop diagram to find leverage points and also ideate solutions that could better impact your system. And then lastly, some reflections. These are great sources to learn for more. And also, if you want to begin with a more neatly way of making causal loop diagrams, these are some tools. Kumo is one that is particularly used a lot actually in my student forum and also in other systems thinking practices. But yeah. And then lastly, just another quote from James. This is basically what we've been talking about over and over again, is you'll never know enough because it is a complex challenge and the system as it truly is unknowable. You will never get it perfect, nor will anyone else, and you can never know it all. In the end, it is still the system as you see it, not as it really is, but you are much closer to a lucid, faithful approximation of what the system is, enough to make a real difference. So just to close it out, the question that I have for you today is how will you use systems mapping to your advantage, and are you ready to act towards meaningful change? Thank you so much. And any questions? I know that we were short on time because I think, started a little bit late and we wanted to get through all the materials, but unfortunately we couldn't. But if we did have like an hour, I'm pretty sure that we would have built more robust like causal loop diagrams and a better understanding of that. But now opening the questions for everyone here.
Yeah, I think if you want to ask a question directly to Sarah, you can like raise hand right now. But Geeta, for the timekeeper, do we still have time for Q&A actually, or should we move on to our next speaker?
I think we can have one question.
Okay, is there anybody here who wants to ask question directly? If not, then I think we better use it for our next speaker. Maybe Sarah, you can just share one more time your contact so they can just email you or like reach you out through social
Okay,
media perhaps.
cool. Thank you guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Sarah. For the next one, I